Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of excitement. It is not about happiness, it is excitement. Serotonin is about contentment, satisfaction, the feeling good and feeling love is oxytocin. There's different neurotransmitters and they do different things, right? The thing about dopamine is that it's incredibly addictive. What it is that we live in a society like where your phone pings every time it pings, it's a little dopamine hit. That means someone loves me, someone thinks about me, someone wants me, and we're very addicted to that. Dopamine hits means looking around for the next hit of excitement. It's that definition of happiness as, oh my God, I'm so excited. No, okay, this is not happiness, it's excitement. And so there's a sense of, I would say, Zen-like or satisfaction, contentment, um, a sense of simply being at ease within oneself. That is so different than the excitement modes. So dopamine, I think, interferes with our decision making because it's just the next hit feels good, especially when we're tired. That's such an easy way to get ourselves back on the horse, if you want, the horse of stress, that it's so easy to look for those little dopamine hits, especially at the end of the day. We don't even realize that as we go about our days, we look for them. And whether it is entertainment or news or our phone or emails or chat or texting, all of these generate those little ping of excitement that come into our life. Now, based on what I've read about this, and I love this book called Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lemke, who studied, dopamine from a psychiatrist's perspective. The flip side of it is when you don't have those dopamine hits after being surrounded and swimming in them is anxiety and depression, because your brain always tries to look for the middle. And so if you were to look at your compass as being true north, being in the middle, kind of neutral, and dopamine pushes you all the way to one side, it's like the volume is super high, then you're going to kind of turn down the volume to super low. And that low state for many people is being seen as being powerless or depressed or down or depleted or what have you. But I would say from my holistic perspective, and I'm going to add on that being on those dopamine hits all the time is incredibly exhausting, mentally and physically, because your body and your brain are not designed to be in that hyperfunction mode, which to me is also connected to stress mode or survival mode. Because our brain has been habituated over the many years that we've used those dopamine pings to keep us stay on the ball, we become super attuned to using stress as energy. That when we don't have any energy, we're going to look for those dopamine hits in order to get back on. And probably the most common thing I hear from a client is, if I stop, I'll never be able to start again. That's a really good sign that you've been working on dopamine hits for a long time. And so from a holistic perspective, I look at this as you are on that chronic stress, high performance survival mode, because you're surrounded by the urgency of grizzlies, breathing down your neck. When you get out of it, you've got nothing left because it was so intense. There's a whole explanation from a physiological perspective behind this, which is based on your autonomous nervous system, which is divided into two different phases. Your feed and rest mode, which is your parasympathetic system, and your sympathetic system, which is your rev up mode, your survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you will borrow whatever you need from anywhere in order to keep going, to protect you and keep you alive in this minute. But if it kills you in 5 years, that's not your your sympathetic, if you want, system problem. Simply because if you don't survive now, what's the point of survival in 5 years, right? Okay, so that borrowing is both mental and physical. So you borrow resources from your mental and your physical health to stay in that high functioning, hyper functioning mode. And when you're there, you do feel like you have superpowers, right? You can keep going, you can do whatever you need to do. But when you're not there, you fall into that deep level of exhaustion and depletion. And that goes in the way of resilience. In fact, that's the point of what I don't like about grit is that it ignores that part completely, that there's a cost to being on that level, to pushing through. And resilience is not about pushing through and forcing through closed doors. It's having the reasonableness to actually look at that closed door and saying, is there another way? Is doing this, you know, the reasonable for me at this point in my life? And what's the cost on my health, on my future, on my family, on my own quality of life?